Tonight's gospel reading is very time appropriate because tonight's gospel reading brings out one idea that most people have been involved in maybe since middle of May, definitely somewhere around Memorial Day, and that's seeds and planting seeds and growth and having vegetation in your yard. Now, I just want to make reference to the beautiful reference that makes in today's gospel reading of seed and seed growth. Let's take a look at a couple verses that I have today's gospel reading. Now, we're going to look at verse 26 and 7 and verse 31 and 32. Jesus said to the crowds, "This is how it is with the kingdom of God. It is as if a man were to scatter seed on the land and would sleep, rise night and day, and through it all the seed would sprout and grow. The kingdom of God is also like a mustard seed that when it is sown in the ground, it is the smallest of all the seeds in the earth. But once it is sown, it springs up, becomes the largest of plants, and puts forth large branches." Now, when I first read that gospel reading, I saw all the references, seeds and growth and plants. I thought about a beautiful spread of flowers over in the country of India. In India, there was this water bearer, and his job was to provide water for the villages in the village in which we lived. And every day, twice a day, he would get this long pole. To the left side of the pole, he would attach a 5-gallon ceramic pot. And to the right side of the pole, he would attach a 5-gallon ceramic pot. Then he would put that pot on his shoulders and head out on this path about a half mile from the village to fill those two pots up with water, to return and to give the villagers water they needed. He did this twice a day. Whenever he would make it out to the spring, he would lower the pole and he would put 5 gallons of water in the pot to the left and 5 gallons of water into the ceramic pot to the right. Then he would attach him back to his pole and lift that pole up. It was very heavy at this point, and then he would head back to the village. Well, it turned out to be that doing this every day for 2 years, the pot on the right had a small little fracture, a small little crack. And whenever he would return back to the village, he had a full complement of 5 gallons of water in the ceramic pot to the left. But the ceramic pot to the right only had 2 gallons of water. 3 gallons of water would seep out of the pot because of its crack. After doing this every day for 2 years, finally, one day, the ceramic pot said to the water bearer, "I am very, very sorry. You know, I have this blemish, and I have this seam, I have this crack. And when we return home back to the village with that water seeps through my little crack, and I've never been able to return with those 5 gallons, usually only 2 gallons. And the water bearer said to him, "Hey, that's just fine. You know, I've known about your crack for many, many years, from the very, very start. And so I decided early on to plant flower seeds on your side of the path. And when we return twice a day, and your water is seeping out of your pot, is landed on those seeds, and the seeds eventually sprouted, and you've been watering those beautiful flowers now for 2 years, twice a day. Look at the right side of the path on the way home, your side, Mr. Pot, with the crack inside of it. Look how beautiful it is. All those flowers, all that color. Look at the left side of the path. It's stark, naked, barren. Nothing's over there. Why, Mr. Pot, it has been your crack that has made this world and that path a beautiful place to live." You know, the moral story that is absolutely true. It turns out to be that it's the crackpots among us that make life beautiful. And think about your family and friends. When you think about your family, what really makes your family special sometimes is because of the 1 or 2 crackpots you have in your family. I mean, just think about it. If every one of us, if we were exactly the same, if we looked the same, spoke the same, said the same things at the same time, thought the exact same things at the same time, this would be a very boring world. The beauty of all of us is that most of us have a flaw, an imperfection. Some of us have a crack. I think about my family. I think about growing up, you know, my mom and her sisters and her brothers. They had family gatherings for absolutely everything. Every wedding, every confirmation, communion, baptism, birthdays, we were always getting together. They loved to get together. But they had one concern, one worry. Uncle Frank. Uncle Frank was our crackpot. And my mom and her sisters would be planning on what we're going to have and a party we're going to have, and they would always say, well, should we invite Frank? Well, yeah, he's our brother. We have to. Well, someone's got to keep an eye on him. And every so often, they give me the job. Kenny, you got to keep an eye on Uncle Frank. If you see he's hanging around that bar a little bit too long, come and get someone, because he's going to do something. What I remember is this. Every family gathering, and we must have had 10 family gatherings a year with the whole family. And whenever Uncle Frank would show up, my mom and her sisters and other brothers, they would just tense up. Myself, my brother, and my cousins, I was so excited to see Uncle Frank show up, because now the party begins. I have no idea what this guy's going to do, but he's going to do something. I'm not sure. But somehow he's going to manage, well, at least in the eyes of my mom and sisters, to ruin the party. In my eyes, I thought it was the best. Well, it turns out to be, now in hindsight, he's passed many years ago. And whenever I get together with my cousins and we reminisce about family gatherings, what subject comes up? Uncle Frank. You remember when Uncle Frank did this, and Uncle Frank grabbed the potato salad and started throwing it all over the place? How mad your mom got, how mad Aunt Helen got, how mad Aunt Genevieve got. I think about those days, and we tell those stories, and we reminisce, and we all laugh. And poor Uncle Frank, he's getting more credit for stuff he never even did. Because those stories are getting bigger and better and more embellished, and we're just laughing, and we know we're adding to the story that never even occurred, but it doesn't matter. It makes us laugh. You know, we needed him in our lives and in our family. Without him, as I look back and we reminisce, we wouldn't have half the stories, wouldn't have half the fun reminiscing. He was the guy that, although he caused great tension for my mom and her sisters and the other brothers, this guy, in hindsight and retrospect, what he has done for my family. Because every conversation, and I just spoke to my cousin earlier this morning, I said, hey, I'm going to talk about Uncle Frank. He said, whatever you do, don't tell some of those stories. But he was great. But he was our crackpot. How important it turns out to be he is on the life of my family. You know, what's really sad is we weren't able to enjoy him, at least I did, and my cousins did, my brother did, but my mom and her sisters and brothers, the other brothers didn't, because they were always worried, he's going to do something. He's going to mess this thing up. He's done 100 times before, whatever it is. But now he becomes a gem and a pearl. He's golden. And in that story of that water bear, told that ceramic pot, I've always known about your crack. That's why I planted flowers on your side, because the water seeped out and the seeds started to grow, and you've been watering those flowers for 2 years. Look how beautiful your side of the path is, because it turns out to be that crack has made this world beautiful. When you think about your life and think about your family and think about your friends, when you reminisce and tell those stories of yesteryear, what's the one person that always comes up and makes everyone laugh and smile? The crackpot of your family. Fortunately, we're not all the same. If we were all the same, this world would be extremely boring. But we're all different. Every one of us, without exception, has a flaw. But every one of us, every one of our families, we have the crackpot. Some families, like mine, have been blessed to have plural crackpots. One on my mom's side, and my dad wouldn't be outdone, so he had a brother on his side. But it's the crackpots in life that make life beautiful.